Hola, meus amigos. Bryson Juji is back with another episode. Today we've got a good one. A very powerful individual. A white belt on the mats, but a billionaire in the world. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Mark Zuckerberg, who recently decided to compete in the BJJ Tour Silicon Valley of 23. And I gotta say, Zuck really brings it in these matches. I'm a guy who's refereed a lot of white belt division matches, so I can say this match does carry some of the typical themes to be expected, such as some errors in execution. Jiu Jitsu is hard. That doesn't mean there's nothing of value to be derived from our observations of these two, and it is entertaining, so let's get into it. Straight off the bat, Zuck asserts dominance by opening up with a lead leg stomp. Mark and VJ then lock up, showing two prevalent white belt division themes: tension and hesitancy. Obviously, no shame about it. Respect is earned for stepping on the mats, though this common position of locking antlers and pummeling is just one of many possible options in terms of competitive strategy, and you could argue that it is overused, and it is simply a reactionary and pacifist approach that some resort to under the pressure of a competitive scenario. Other strategic options exist in jiu-jitsu tournaments, such as shooting without contact, pulling guard and sweeping, hitting an arm drag to a standing back take, etc. Again, no disrespect to either of these gentlemen, I'm just making some helpful observations for any white belts in my audience thinking of competing. Looking at this initiation here by Mark, the view is blocked by one of the multiple photographers. We can see here Mark cupping the hamstring. The reasons why this didn't work are very clear. Firstly, VJ had control of the inside space with his left arm, so his elbow acted as a frame, denying Mark's attempt to close the space. And secondly, Mark did not fully pursue the takedown, seen in the lack of commitment to level change. Keep in mind, in this sport, we are attempting to wrangle an equally trained adult human to the mat. To be successful, we're going to need to give our opponents some deception and variance in our footwork, grip and tension, and level of stance. 24 seconds in, VJ completes the first half of a collar tie snapdown, but fails to commit further. This was successful. It brought Mark's knees to the mat, and he could have followed up by seeking a front head control or, on the second attempt, taking advantage of Mark's posture and finding the ankle pick, because it was just right there. 42 seconds in, VJ takes advantage of Mark's upright posture and actually finds the single, but VJ skips the single and does a great job of actually taking Mark down with the single leg, circling 180 degrees in the process. Very nice, VJ. He frees the head and tries to pass the half, but Mark hip escapes and reguards to closed. Not bad, but they're out of bounds, and the two need to reset back in the middle. From the close guard, Mark does an excellent job of passing VJ's tricep across his own body, exposing the back. Perfect execution of the first half of the elbow drag offensive sequence from close guard, as Mark failed to close the inside space following the elbow drag, and VJ retrieved his elbow through this space, rescuing his back. Here's an example of a tight connection to the body. It's a different context, but we can see here how Gordon Ryan's upper body is securely stapled to Hafthor's, no space. Moments later, VJ then very bravely rises to his feet to open the close guard of Mark and begin passing. Mark misses the opportunity for a tripod sweep. With a dual control on Mark's ankle, VJ hits the leg drag. Once again, perfect execution of the first half of the technique, but the follow-up lacked structure. This example here, while in the gi, shows Nicholas Marigali with the controlling emphasis not just on the ankle, but the knee. First with the grip in the palm, secondly with a pinch connection of the elbow and the knee. These are crucial details one must understand to be good at jiu-jitsu. VJ falls forward here and Mark retains his supine open guard. Then he actually hits a tripod sweep. I would have loved to have seen the details of Mark's execution of this technique and compared it to Gordon's points in this awesome video here by Bernardo Ferreira. We can't see it entirely as our view is blocked here by this other athlete and this other dude standing on the mats. but I'll still leave a link to the great video in the description, as there's a lot of detail into professional level execution of this technique. So Zuck ends up in an unrefined Ashigarami entanglement, and Vijay swivels, putting Mark in a dangerously close to disqualification leg reap position. But Vijay hits the hip switch, entirely passing Mark Zuckerberg's guard. From the side control, Vijay keeps the pressure high and entirely off of Mark's hips, seemingly approaching the Kasugatami, but Mark uses his underhook to free his head back to standing. Slap, bump, the boys lock antlers. Mark makes the tactical fault of half committing to retrieve a single leg, putting his head in the perfect position to be snatched by Vijay. My understanding is that it is illegal to jump close guard under this rule set at the white belt. But I mean, it does happen here to Mark, and there's no repercussion. Perhaps because Vijay was simultaneously attacking the neck, which, if anything, makes the situation more dangerous. But anyway, no repercussions here. Zuck survives the attempt and is bringing a lot of forward pressure here. Vijay could have used this forward pressure to hit a plethora of great and clean no-gi close guard sweeps, but he elects to try and find the omote zangaku, the front-facing triangle. His efforts were staggered. We can see his transition into the triangle was disallowed by Mark's defensive right elbow framing structure, and Mark was able to stack Vijay, shuck the triangle, and flip Vijay belly down. This moment was high risk. Thankfully, Vijay didn't fall directly over his own neck and instead was rolled over his shoulder. We must always be mindful towards moments like this in our sport. Also, this belly down position can make sense in a wrestling and judo setting, as you're avoiding having your back on the mat. But in this jiu-jitsu context, it's a result of being overcommitted to a narrow focus on the arm, and it puts Vijay in a bad position. Zuck is out of harm's way. He frees the arm, and the match ends with Zuck in the quarter mount. Vijay 5, Zuck 2. In the sequel, the boys slap bump, neither man willing to pull. Vijay continues pitching his snap down approach, all without much of a convincing follow through. I will take a moment to comment on Mark's posture again here. We can see he is fully upright, perhaps too much so, and perhaps unintentionally displaying postural rigidity. He would likely increase his athletic power as well as minimize vulnerability to takedowns and foot sweeps by lowering his base through his hips and bending the knees. These are preparations made in the stance to allow for tighter reaction time and greater ability to sprawl. It also gives you quicker access to greater power for your own entries should you decide to level change and take your opponent down. Subsequently, Vijay finds both legs, taking Zuck through the air to the mat. But Mark finds a threatening control of the head, so the two vacate and come back to standing. I love this look Mark gives him. Moments later, Vijay finds the back of both knees once again, finding another double, this time even bigger, taking Mark to the mat. But Mark traces with his foot, finding the close guard, and what Mark proceeds to do was actually quite nice. He hits a perfect close guard sweep straight into the mount. I have a theory that Mark found this sweep unintentionally and he was just looking for the Kimura, but in doing so, controlled Vijay's posting arm and disrupted his balance. We can see Vijay's narrow and baseless knee positioning. It didn't provide him much resistance to Mark's sweep. So now Mark's on top, based low and heavy, perhaps looking to stay in this position as opposed to advancing the mount and seeking the sub. Remember, advancing the mount looks like underhooks and climbing high, but Mark is likely more confident in his ability to simply retain the position and win on points, which he does, and that's where they end things. Be sure to check out my other videos if you appreciate the direct, succinct approach of my observations. You know, I'm always trying to be brief, but cover a lot of ground and not waste much time. So, as always, be strong, keep training. Ooh, my friends. Thank you. See you next time.